you're a playmaker doesn't mean you can't carry.
He's been doing a whole lot of damage. Thanks for that, Hawk. Now let's get into the draft for game number 2. Yeso, take it away.
All right, already through the first phase of bans, you heard RMC, 404, and Trajan talk about it at the top of the broadcast talk. We are on patch 13.12, which means Rel back on the table, as well as the Ivern, and the Rel does hit the ban table. Early focus to that jungle as FURIA takes that Vi with their B1 pick. INTZ immediately responding while the Milio takes some nerfs. Not enough for INTZ not to pick it here for Nia.
And also, look at that. Zai's Pike getting respect banned away from INTZ as well. Played it in both games last week. So clearly, INTZ respecting FURIA's craziness potential, which, by the way, was said by Yampy on the podcast. Tropus Liberados. Yampy was saying, hey, we don't want to get drawn into the craziness of FURIA. We want to try to play it more standard, play it more slow, sort of as we said with FURIA in their mid game. And I heard your reaction, Yeso. The Nila getting slammed down. The craziness already getting locked in early for IU.
This is so much fun. They're also going to round out this first pick phase with the Cassante for Batau, who has been solid for them up on the top side. But I really love seeing this from FURIA, because teams that can bring out those pocket picks and succeed with them on stage, you change the complexion of draft, because now you're adding more picks that teams have to think about in the ban phase, and maybe it means you're opening up more OPs for your team to get. They draw the Pike ban, more stuff available for their team. They get the Cassante and the Vi, which are two very high priority picks in the current meta. INTZ, they're going to respond with the most popular jungler in the meta right now. It's the Maokai to finish out phase 1.
And now, already, we see these two compositions drawn by stylistic lines. FURIA wants to go skirmish, as we would expect. In INTZ, it's a lot more team fight focused. If I'm INTZ right here, ban the Annie or the Ahri, pick the other one on 4, then get yourself a counter pick in top for ZZK. We saw what this player could do with an R5 cannon last week, and let it be known, it was pretty ugly. And that was against, I would say, the best top laner in the league in Guigo. So I think that's the best way to proceed with things, but instead, it's just more support focus, which I think the UA tank supports when the enemy's playing Nila is a bit odd when she synergizes so well with enchanters, and now FURIA is guaranteed to get one of these two playmaking mids on their mid laner.
Yeah, and Yuumi and Lulu available. Important to note, again, as was talked about at the top of the broadcast, that trio of enchanters all got some nerfs, but I even saw Rudude, who, shout out to him, not on the broadcast today, but he was in Twitch chat earlier talking about how he felt that some of those nerfs were fake and that it wasn't going to mean a lot, so we'll keep an eye on maybe which one of those picks comes through. It is going to be the Ahri here, though, for Nostrus, for INTZ, and now the response from FURIA, so they are going to leave that R5 counter pick here for ZZK into this Cassante.
So the one thing about the Ahri is it is pretty strong into the Annie in lane. You're able to get priority against it. So maybe Tuts not wanting to go that direction, especially against Milio. If you're not blowing him up, it can be difficult. But FURIA continuing just to index into the skirmish potential. It was almost identical to the composition that we saw last time around from them, with the Bel'Veth and the Nila together. IU and Goot slamming down the gauntlet in this game. Tuts getting a signature pick regardless of the situation, because you know what? Annie has just been damned strong in the CBLOL Yeso, 8-5 through 13 games played.
If memory serves, the last time that we saw the Bel'Veth here for FURIA, they ended up giving it to Goot in the jungle, was very good on it. And the discussion, if memory serves, I think I was with RMC, we were talking about how, oh, maybe, you know, IU's just been teaching everybody on FURIA, hey, this is how Bel'Veth works in this lane. Here's how you can play it here. And we were waiting to see if maybe Zai would bring it out, and we are going to get it here, paired up with the Nila of IU. The last pick for INTZ is the Gwen into the Cassante for the top side. So now you see Champion Select finished out here. I'm going to challenge you, Hawk. Who's your winner here in draft?
I've got to be honest. I think FURIA's gotten everything they wanted. Sure, their composition might look a little unhinged, and I'm going to be real. They gave up so much power to get it, but this just feels like a signature FURIA composition. And if INTZ, their concern is getting dragged into a bonanza of a mid game against FURIA, well, I think you failed in that. They have so many ways to initiate onto you. Nila Vi is going to be going hard in your comp. You better hope that the safety of Milio Maokai is enough to keep you alive.
You can certainly pray. We're going to bring Trajan back in here as we get ready to hit the Rift for Game 2 on the day. Very fun draft here, Trajan.
Yeah, when FURIA's there, we always get a little bit of fun right here. The fact that Zai and IU are just becoming the same person as well, both with the Bel'Veth supports, they are merging into one entity that is just down there to dominate your bot lane. But I love that FURIA is putting their own meta together right now. Everyone else is keeping and coloring within the lines mostly, but FURIA just has no interest in following that through. So, Hawk, when it comes to Neela Bel'Veth supports as the color caster, I assume you know exactly how this is going to play out. Tell us how this matchup plays out.
You know what? It's going to play out in a way where there's a lot of blood. That's really all I'm expecting. Clearly, again, I love how, Yesa, you brought that up. Just everyone being willing to play the Bel'Veth on FURIA. Like, I was like, guys, I promise, this is the tech, but it's sort of like a Pantheon support in all seriousness, right? You just create a kill lane with a lot of pressure, and Melio Felios is liable to getting engaged on.
It's going to be a fun one. Thanks so much, Trajan, Hawk. We're into Game 2 of the day, and it's kind of worked out really, really well that we get the back-to-back battles of the top of the table. Red and Pain both at 3-1. Red taking Game 1. Now we will see this separation at the top of the standings even further because one of these teams will match Red at 4-1 at the end of this game. Very fascinating draft here for FURIA. A lot of spicy picks here. It looks like they want to maybe step into this red side jungle, get down some early vision to track Yampi early. Of course, we know how integral the early game is for this INTZ team.
And that's the big thing, is that Yampi in their wins, especially last week, was performing so incredibly well, getting those advantages for INTZ. They're very reliant on their jungler to be a playmaker. If he's not a part of the game, INTZ oftentimes falls on the side of passive for me, Yeso, and not to a good way. So getting that early vision down for FURIA going to be really big when already you can see they want to play aggressive bottom side, sneaking into this bush, playing forward. Ninja Kiwi and Nia going to have to respect the all-in threat of Zai and IU.
So there's, of course, with the way that Champions Select worked out, a ton that we're going to have to say about this bottom lane, and we're going to focus on a lot, especially when we get into that mid game that we think is going to be very important for both of these teams. But let's circle back to the mid jungle that I know you wanted to highlight in this game. And as we come out of Champion Select, it's Vi and Annie for the side of FURIA. You got the Maokai as well as the Ahri for the side of INTZ. What are you looking for this mid jungle matchup here in the early game?
So the biggest thing is that, as I mentioned in draft, Nosferus should have early priority onto Tuts. You've got more wave clear, you've got more range, and you should be able to control the lane against the Annie. The problem for INTZ lies in that Vi Annie is just a better 2v2 than Maokai Ahri. Maokai Ahri, they're very much facilitators, want to play towards these strong side lanes, where something we've seen from FURIA is no matter how aggressive their bottom lane is, they play to mid lane in their early game, which might sound counterintuitive until you realize that they are so often able to use the advantage they get in that quadrant of the map to then rotate it down the bottom lane and play with these 4v2s, making it so incredibly difficult for the enemy team to find purchase in the game. So that's what I'm expecting one more time here, Yeso.
Yep, Zai with the knockup there onto both Nia and Ninja Kiwi. IU wants to go in for a follow, but a good trade back from Ninja Kiwi. Great damage from the INTZ bottom lane. Meanwhile, push in favor of ZZK early here on this Gwen. Another matchup that is going to be very important. The Cassante now with 2 wins in CBLOL, but Tao with an opportunity to make it 3. I'm really curious, why has this pick not been very successful despite the power that we know it has, how much it is prized in the meta currently, Hawk?
You know, that's a difficult question to answer because I've been wondering the same thing as you, Yeso. I mean, I don't really know why Cassante hasn't worked. Hey, it looked great when FMB played it just last game, so I'm hoping that's a sign of more to come. And I know we've been praising Batal for his teamfight prowess, so I mean, up against the Gwen, not down too much early on. Of course, the matchup will get harder, but already you can just see Goot controlling the river, and I think that's the real story of the game, is walking in around mid, even towards the enemy jungle, spotting out Yampi, and this Maokai's just not really been allowed to get a part of the game so far. And while it's still pretty early, you know, we don't need to see Goot doing anything, Yampi rather, doing anything too crazy. I like the way Goot is controlling the bot river highway. That is the most important part of the map at this stage.
Meanwhile, Yampi going to get in here and look to secure the top side. Scuttle Crab drops down a pink ward, and getting here before Goot means that at the very least he'll have control up around this area before Rift Herald spawns in 3.5 minutes. 20 seconds till the first Drake, and we'll keep an eye on which of those bot lane duos can get priority here over the next minute or so, because that'll be a good sign of who's going to go for that early Drake. Meanwhile, it's the gank into the mid lane here. Good stun from Tuts into the knockup from Goot. Yampi down to half health, has to back away. Looks like it's going to be the recall from Nostris. Does have teleport available though.
He needs to be careful. Batal maybe a little bit too low to go for something, and plenty of vision to play around with. But I talked about how Goot loves to play around mid lane in the early game. We're getting it on full display here. Yeah, so as you can see, coming off the reset, doesn't go straight to the Gromp. Instead, runs towards mid, run towards the river, gets a chunk onto Yampi, and just forces him back. It's all about controlling mid, making sure Tuts is always in an ideal situation. And despite any sort of early priority that I thought Nosferus would have, Tuts is just straight up 8 CS ahead
plays down
over his opponent, which is A, not what I was expecting, and B, all a part of this FURIA game plan.
Yeah, and you could see a little bit of a respect buy early on, looking for some tenacity to stay alive on this Ahri. Nosferus understanding, hey, I'm going to have to eat a lot of hard crowd control in this game, and I'm going to be very important. These charms are going to be key to locking down these targets like Tuts and IU. So looking to find a little bit of that safety here in the early game, as Nia's going to get back to bottom lane to back up Ninja Kiwi. Also important to note, you know, it takes a little time to get going, but the fun thing about this Neela is you can get the wheels turning in terms of an experience lead thanks to her passive. Possibly a gank down to the bottom lane. That's going to be Goot over the wall. Nia just able to sidestep it, and the Gravitum available at a very solid time here for Ninja Kiwi to prevent any further aggression.
Yeah, nice disengage right there from INTZ. But again, Goot just always first into the river. Now Yampi's going to be able to walk in, but you don't control this very much, sir. I wouldn't be surprised if FURIA wants to try to contest over here, but trading a mid.
Yeah, good charm there. Yampi just a little too late. Wasn't in range there for the twisted advance to try and lock down Tuts. Timbers will come out, so they do pull that ultimate from Tuts for the time being. Does give Nosferus a little bit of extra safety here for the next couple of minutes until that cooldown is backed up. Meanwhile...
Yeah, but...
Go ahead.
That was Yampi's flash down, right? There's your proactive playmaker from INTZ that we said was so incredibly important, and now not having access to that summoner, Batal in the one-on-one gets it as well. FURIA just a bit of individual outplays right now, using their time more efficiently, and it's resulted in even CS in the lanes that matter, as well as a CS lead in mid. Bot still in total control. It could just be a Drake start should they want to go for it. Yampi is spotted on top side, I believe, by that control ward, but maybe not. Just going to be a reset instead.
The one good thing that I've seen from this 2v2, though, at least early on, is Ninja Kiwi and Nia doing a really good job of absorbing pressure. IU and Zai have stayed aggressive. They're trying to make plays. Goot has showed up a couple of times in this bottom lane. Ninja Kiwi and Nia haven't really been punished early. I don't believe they've used any of their summoner spells. They've been able to trade back very effectively. So, at least for the early going, INTZ's bottom lane holding strong.
That's true, and that is big, right? But remember, INTZ, they were the team that often so easily generates these earlier leads. It's FURIA in the mid game that you really need to watch out for with these picks. Their ability to snap engage onto individual members and take them down is so incredibly scary. And with Herald on the map, you can see Zai posturing around it. Level 6 on the Belveth. IU has full swap up here as well. FURIA clearly prioritizing getting this one down for Zai to be able to start spawning some of those Whittlings and knock down a tower. And this is the part of the game where I'm really looking for FURIA to come to live, and I think it's going to be up to INTZ. Work cut out for them to try to survive it.
Bit of a lane swap here early on. FURIA sending their bot lane up to the top side, looking to have those extra numbers around this Rift Herald. The Goot has already started. Important to note, Ninja Kiwi is the one currently matching Batal in that bottom lane. But even Batal, maybe considering a little bit of a roam, isn't going to go for it. Rift Herald secure by the side of FURIA, and maybe considering dropping it to just give some plates to IU, but INTZ looking to respond. Yampi spotted on that ward, and Nia has arrived, so it is the 3v3 numbers matched in this top lane for the time being.
The lane assignments are really awkward, though, for INTZ. You've got Ninja Kiwi one-on-one against Batao in the bottom lane. Not one that you really want your Aphelios a part of. IU fat fingers his ultimate a little bit, but I don't think that's going to ultimately end up mattering too much, as it's just FURIA getting an uncontested Herald going over. Again, INTZ said they didn't want to get dragged into FURIA's crazy game. Credit to them. So far, they have not, but they've also not found that success in the early game that has found them their victory so far this split.
Important to note, though, that kind of first break point that we keep our eyes on, and you mentioned it in the pregame, Hawk, is that goal difference at 15 minutes, and there is still 5 minutes for them to hopefully build that significant lead that they can work with, because it has been so good for them so far this split. Essentially dead even in gold here at the 10-minute mark. INTZ, that best early game team in terms of goal difference. We'll see if they can find that lead, but priority has favored FURIA everywhere but the top lane so far this game. We'll see if INTZ can change that, as this is Goot up to the top lane. This IU looking for some further play. It's Goot considering dropping the Rift Herald. Zai is here as well. Osphorus is going to respond with Nia in his back pocket. Ninja Kiwi on his way.
So this is a really cool thing about Bel'Veth support. You saw Zai just walk into mid lane and spawn a bunch of extra minions for his team just by standing there. And it means that it takes INTZ longer to be able to match the rotation towards top. So IU just able to take a plate. Small things like that actually making Bel'Veth support seem like less and less of a troll pick every single time I see it. I mean, even though I know it's the IU special, it always is one of those ones that might make you scratch your head at first. However, clearly paying his dividends, and the game continues to be dead even, Yeso.
I'm just really curious how many of these pocket pick bans is FURIA going to start to draw throughout this split, Hawk, right? They're already drawing bans on the Pyke. Now Zai showing that he can bring out the Bel'Veth support that IU drew bans very consistently on in the back half of split 1 this year. What else do they have in their bag of tricks? I'm so curious to find out.
They've got a whole bag of holding of tricks, clearly, because that thing is looking like an infinite plane to another dimension, as they clearly have a lot of stuff that they can bring out. Already just 5 games in the season, playing quite a few champions that nobody else is, and once again being one step ahead of the play. INTZ, I think they're too slow. They're going to full commit, though, and Zai, look at the BM.
Yeah, I mean...
That was awesome. The just dance on him. INTZ getting a little bit caught on the, flat-footed. I mean, they're going to take a dragon, so it's still good for them, but I love that little bit of banter, shall we say, on the Rift.
I love it, too, because I don't know that that was a necessary teleport. Like, you already have vision on Batao in the top side.
Yeah, exactly. Zai's letting him know. He's like,
the numbers advantage.
Yeah. I mean, just, it's like a question mark ping for the enemy team, you know?
I'm going back to what you tweeted earlier. Very sus. From INTZ with that teleport. Regardless, though, they do pick up that first streak, finally falling a little late in this game, 12.5 minutes in, but they are on the board in terms of those neutral objectives. Keep an eye on this Rift Herald spawning in 2 minutes, and guess what? That lead has now started to balloon. These tower plates picked up by the side of FURIA starting to build that lead. They're now up by about 1,300 gold over INTZ. Remember, INTZ averages a 1,400 gold lead at 15 minutes.
And that's included in their loss, by the way. So that's all of their games. That clearly goes to show how prolific their early to mid game has been. But FURIA just simply out-rotating the opposite number so far. Not really much else to be said about it. INTZ always just one step behind, dropping a few creeps every single time. ZZK, to his credit, is still taking something and is quite strong on the Gwen. 10 CS per minute, now getting a second tower plate to his name. So INTZ, again, like, I don't want to speak like they're out of the game. They've got insane scaling in their composition. It's just based on what we've seen historically, this is a team that likes to get a lead and has struggled when they're not able to be proactive, Yeso.
I'm right there with you. They, at the very least, in terms of what you brought to the table in Champions, like, you've got that
here we go, TP behind.
If it's enough. It is the TP flank in the engage here for FURIA. INTZ in a rough spot. That is the apotheosis from IU trying to get on to Ninja Kiwi, and that is first blood from Goot. FURIA on the board, and it's going to keep going. They're trying to get it back. INTZ, they take it 2 down. The bottom lane is gone. That's going to be 3 as touch balls as well. Huge huge support there from ZZK, and INTZ turned that fight on its head.
INTZ doesn't want to get dragged into the craziness of the FURIA mid-game, but they strike back beautifully when the chips fall. My word, 2 for 3 extended as Goot was able to knock down Yampi, but a beautiful counter engage from INTZ, and Yeso, this scaling composition, finding a good fight this early on in the game is scary for FURIA. And as we take another look, the cleanse is huge from Nia, and it allows Ninja Kiwi to kite back just far enough for FURIA to overextend. And once ZZK shows up, we talked about the strength of this Gwen just a few minutes ago. Gets a double kill, gets an assist as well, and as 3 kills drop, ZZK looking like he might be in a position to carry this game.
And the key there really is we'll see Yampi taken down here at the end. Goot waiting in the brush for him to come for his Raptors. But the key was that while it looked like FURIA had the early numbers advantage with that the TPs coming through, with Zai getting almost taken 100-0 right out the bat, the Belveth was non-existent in that fight. So as soon as ZZK arrived, INTZ had all the tools available to them, and they smashed that fight. You take down Ninja Kiwi, but that was it in the straight-up team fights. So well played from INTZ, and while they are still down a little bit of gold, and important to note, it is in fact about a 1,400 gold lead for FURIA. That is a great play for INTZ.
It most certainly is. Now they're able to get the Herald summoned up in top. This should be a tower going over to them. Now, yeah, so they are still down in gold, so this game remains very close. And I want to cast your mind back to FURIA's game against Los Grandes last week, where they played this Nila, this Belveth. Granted, Belveth in the jungle, but still similar sort of idea. They didn't get that far ahead in that game either. It was a pretty scrappy game, and it was those 25-minute fights, those later mid-game fights, where they were able to win the game. So I have faith in this team to be able to contest later on, but this is where INTZ's rock-solid team fight composition is going to be a problem the later the game goes. So both these teams primed and ready. I have a feeling that they're going to want to fight at this dragon in a minute, so.
Yeah, I think you are correct there. 50 seconds until that one spawns, and you can already see Goot down on that bot side, clearing out his red quadrant of the jungle, and I imagine FURIA is going to be looking to lay down some vision in this river, but INTZ with the quick response, and the nice thing, you get a lot of info from those saplings that Yampi can place down.
And honestly, I think INTZ might be in a better spot to fight this game. They don't have Ninja Kiwi's flash. The Aphelios is almost certain to die, but you've got ZZK still with flash up and stopwatch. Like, I don't think Ninja Kiwi needs to be the primary carry on this team. You've got the Gwen. Just die an honorable death, get the cooldowns off, and watch Gwen work her magic. You can see ZZK sneaking in towards the Wolves, going to try to look for some sort of flank angle. Is spotted now.
And important to note, we as a team have had a ton of discussions about build paths for Ahri, whether the utility Ahri is viable in the current meta. Nostras doesn't go for the utility, is going for the damage, and it looks like it's a huge pick. It's going to be Zai caught out at the start of the fight once again. Flash over the wall from Patau to get to safety, and it looks like INTZ have got all they need. They've turned their focus to this Drake. It's an immediate teleport for Tuts to the top lane, and this is 2 Drakes for INTZ.
You know, I've got to be honest. I feel like I always like, trust me, bro, this pick's great. Zai right now is like, I don't believe you. Because it's the second fight in a row where he's run in and got nearly one shot instantly. INTZ soaking up, I don't even know if I can call that an engage from FURIA, and just taking another dragon very easily for themselves. They will lose top tier 1 for it, so FURIA still getting something back, but I mean, they're not really getting those advantages that we were expecting them to in this mid-game.
FURIA needs to right the ship here very, very soon, and it's likely going to be on the back of Goot and Tuts starting these fights. They can't allow INTZ to get those inroads and catch out their support. You need to see the Vi and the Annie getting things going with the big crowd control abilities that they bring to the table. So keep an eye on Goot and Tuts in these coming fights. You can see that gold grab very, very close through the first 12 minutes. FURIA start to take over a little bit. Bit of a roller coaster, but INTZ clawing it back from the gold perspective now with a minimal gold lead here at 19 minutes, and things are going to only get more fun when Baron arrives on the Rift Talk.
Now, I do want to give FURIA credit as well, because even though that second Dragon fight was not exactly what they were looking for, we've seen a lot of teams here in the CBLOL take fights around second or third Dragon that are just horrendous, but still full send for it anyway and get aced and basically lose the game off that play. So FURIA, they recognize, okay, we scuffed this one up. Hey, Tuts, TP top, let's take a tower, let's not give up too much, and they keep this one very competitive. So the game yet to explode one way or another yet, and INTZ, despite the scaling, they're not on their item spikes, so things looking very tense probably for the next 5 minutes or so. Baron going to be spawning in 15 seconds or so, giving the teams yet another objective that they have to consider.
ZZK on this Gwen. It's just going to be a problem for the rest of this game. Already has the Mythic online, and looks like Batao is really going to struggle in these side lanes to deal with this Gwen. So keep an eye on that matchup, because that is really going to create some problems for FURIA if ZZK doesn't even need to come to the team fights to make them respect him.
Yeah, it always feels bad as a top laner when your lane opponent just starts killing a tower in your face and there ain't crap you can do about it, but that's really deep.
That's the engage for Good that we're looking for, but the problem, there's no follow-up. Ninja Kiwi had gotten that flash. Back up, gets to the safety of the tower, and now the wrong side of the map is Goot, but is going to be able to get over the wall back to safety. As Ferris and Nia not going to be able to find him quickly enough.
How the hell did Goot make it out of that? That guy was between towers, and he is going to be able to walk it out on the Oh, hang on, wait. Unless Nosferus finds him.
No, he doesn't know. He doesn't know.
Okay, he doesn't know. Oh, are they going to try to set up a pick? This is crazy. Goot, like, playing the long con over here, sitting behind Nosferus.
Okay, he's going to go in. No ultimate available, but good early engage there onto Nosferus. The team is on their way, but Goot might not even need them. Almost just straight up wins the 1v1. The Ahri will escape, but a costly pick there.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the ult, so Nosferus going to be fine. Doesn't end up losing his life, anything of that nature. But I like it from Goot. One blade doesn't work. Let's go for another one. Enemy mid gets chunked. Ultimately, though, I don't think it's going to hold too much bearing over the future of this game. It's really going to be about that Mountain Soul point fight for INTZ in a minute 20. That's going to be the time to go. 2 items on IU, 2 items on Goot. Lots of damage for FURIA. And INTZ, they don't have their item spikes yet, but luxury items are completed on their side. Stopwatches on both their magic damage carries. Ninja Kiwi, once again, if you can die an honorable death in that fight, you're probably still going to win it. So we'll see if they're able to execute.
Yeah, Ninja Kiwi on that 2-item spike. So this Aphelios is going to start to be very difficult to deal with. Those Moonlight Vigils is going to be something to keep an eye on in these team fights. As this game continues, INTZ is starting to posture around this topside river, establishing vision in the area. They're looking to get this Baron going very soon. They might want to try and secure this mid lane tier 1, open up the map a little bit, but FURIA very focused on keeping that alive for the time being. Mid lane tier 1 towers alive for both teams. A very important thing to note here in this game.
And spotted.
Yeah, this
Ferris
could
thinks
be a
he's
problem.
flanking. He is not flanking anybody. This is the most obvious one of the year, but Engage comes out.